everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Dr. Perkins. I am a board certified OBGYN, and I'm probably a little bit too passionate about talking about these things, but I'm glad that you're here with me. In this episode, we will be talking about what does a single herpes bump look like. By the end of this video, we will talk about herpes 1 and herpes 2. We will learn the difference in the 3 different categories of herpes infections. We will learn about what a herpes bump looks like, and we'll talk about how that bump may change depending on the type of infection that you have. Let's dive into it. So, what is herpes? Herpes is a sexually transmitted infection. In fact, it is extremely common worldwide with so many infections occurring, and there's a reason for this. Herpes does not necessarily manifest in everyone's body that is infected with it. Herpes is a virus, and it is really referred to as the herpes simplex virus, or HSV. Now, there is type 1 and type 2. Initially, type 1 would be primarily in the oral area and can cause things like cold sores, and type 2 will be found genitally. Over time, we've realized that both types of this virus can cause infections in either area. So type 2, the genital form, may infect your mouth or your lips or your tongue or your gums in a fashion very similar to cold sores. And similarly, you could have type 1 genitally on the vagina, on the penis, on the vulva. Let's talk more about this. Having herpes is a chronic, lifelong infection. There are no cures. There are only medications that will shorten the course, but nothing to actually cure it. Herpes infections may present from a latent state or a dormant state. Infections may present in sores and bumps. Infections may be local and recurrent. What does that mean? Well, infections may be in one local specific area and may keep recurring over time in that same exact area. In 2008, some of the latest data that we have available right now, there were over 500,000 or 500,000 new infections in that year alone. Most of these infections may occur in people between the ages of 14 and 49. That's a wide range, which means that many people may be exposed and may be infected and not know it as well. Herpes is spread through fluids, bodily fluids. This could be in your saliva. This could be in your vaginal discharge. This could be in semen. It can also spread by having skin-to-skin contact. Some people may mistaken what the infection actually is. They may think that it's a pimple, they may think that it's a boil, and not realize that it's an actual STI. When I say STI, that means sexually transmitted infection, or STD, sexually transmitted disease. In females, what we've noticed also is that because some females might not necessarily look at their genitals regularly, they may think that they have irritation on their vulva or their vaginal lips, but it is actually a recurrent vaginal or herpes infection. Let's talk more about how this herpes infection may feel to you. Herpes may present with pain in the areas that sores develop. Let's talk now about what the infections actually look like. There are almost different stages of the infection. You start by having a blister that is filled with fluid and almost looks like a bubble on the skin, like right here. This blister may break and the solution that's in it may be released. At that point, you can absolutely transmit the infection to someone else. Once that blister breaks, an ulcer is formed that looks a little like this. It looks like it has a dimple in the middle and may be painful to the touch as well. Once this ulcer heals, you may notice something that looks like scarring on the skin, but that scarring usually will go away. You can transmit this infection to someone at any point in the sores or the course of the sores. In addition to that, you can really pass on this infection even when a sore is not present. If you're enjoying what we're talking about today and our topic, please go ahead and like and subscribe. A majority of herpes infections are transmitted with people being unaware that they have this infection. And this is because they've never had an outbreak, which is the sores coming out to the skin. And so they never knew that they have this infection. And so they have sexual contact or have genitals and body parts touching and transmitting the infection, but having no idea that they are infected at all. Let's talk about these infections and what they may look like. There are 3 different types of infectious states that you can have with herpes infections: primary, non-primary, and recurrent. Let's talk about each of these. In a primary infection, you may notice a lot of sores in the area, like clusters, many of them, and you may notice it bilaterally, meaning on both sides. So for example, if you have a cluster of sores on your vulva on the right, equally opposite of that area might be another cluster, and just on your primary or first outbreak. It's very amazing because even though you may have those infections initially on both sides, recurrent infections may be on one side only. Some people may be infected with either herpes type 1 or herpes type 2. A non-primary infection is when you've now been infected with the second one that you did not initially have. So if you had herpes type 1 and you now acquire herpes type 2, you may have a similar first type of reaction, just not as severe as the primary infection. The third type of situation is having recurrent infections. In people with recurrent infections, it is less severe. You may not have as much flu-like symptoms like fevers or swollen glands or even just pain in many different types or counts or amounts of sores. You may just have 1 or 2 or 3 in a smaller amount. You may still have pain in the area and you may still be discomforted during this time. Let's talk about how you can find out about a herpes infection even though you've never had an outbreak and you've never had sores. I get this all the time. Patients will say to me, well, Dr. P, I have never had anything on my skin. I've never had this before. What's happening? Herpes is an infection that is very hard to trace when you got it, when you became infected, or to what degree the infection is in your system. Once it's acquired, though, it is acquired. Some people may find out by having a blood test. In this fashion, people will come in and request to have an STD testing done. Now, know that the standard STD panel does not incorporate herpes as one of the testing. It normally covers chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis, hepatitis, and HIV. So if you do request an STD panel from your doctor and you would like to know whether or not you have herpes or has ever been infected by it, you would need to request that to your doctor specifically. So you'll say, Doc, I would like an STD panel and herpes testing. Now, we don't incorporate herpes in the standard panel because, again, we don't know when you got it or who you got it from or how long it's been in your system. Because of that, socially, it creates so much anxiety and people may even get depressed knowing that they have this infection. And also, there's no cure. There's nothing that we will do if we know that you have this virus but are not having any symptoms and not ever having any outbreaks. Let's talk about shedding. This is such an important part of having herpes that we want to make sure that we spend some time and talk about this. Shedding can occur whenever there is absolutely no sores or problems on your skin. The virus is still active in your nerves. It is still active in your skin, and while this happens, it can be transmitted and it becomes contagious to another person. The problem here is that you will not know that your virus is shedding. So If you have herpes and you're wondering, well, when is it safe to have unprotected sexual activity or even protected sexual activity? It is very hard to say, because at any point in your course of life, you could be shedding the virus and not know it. This is a part of the reason why this infection is so prominent and why it continues to be spread and people are unaware that they have the infection. Of course, with shedding, if you do have an outbreak, it is very important that you have no contact with another person while you're having an infection. That means if you have oral sores, if you have cold sores, you want to not kiss, you want to not share items during that time, because you can pass on that infection. The same thing genitally. You can pass on an infection with sores, or even if they're healing, you can still pass on the infection to another person. If you've enjoyed our topic today, our discussion, and learning about how our bodies may show signs and symptoms of these infections, go ahead and click the link below. This will give you access to my free ebook on balancing hormones. Whenever your hormones are balanced, our overall system functions better, and even in states of having herpes infection may help to reduce the amount of infections or how often you may get these. So go ahead and click that link to learn more. I'm Dr. Perkins. It's been a pleasure talking with you today. Thank you for joining me.